Okay. Now the screen will be visible to you. Okay. So today we will discuss about airport engineering. So last class we have just started. So in the previous module, you have to study the theory portion, road signs, road signals, and pavement markings. So that will be added in the class note, and you can have a view on that. So last class we have discussed in short about various road signs. Three types of road signs we have discussed: mandatory, cautionary, and informatory. So these three signs and their specialities that you have to read, and you can write it by points. So and you can draw the various signs also if it's asked in the exam. So now moving on to the second part of the fifth module. Here it's about airport and aircraft. So last class we have discussed it consists of three parts. So in the first part it is the terminal building. Okay, so and in the second part we have to study about the runway, and in the third phase we have to study about aircraft. So here we have started from the runway. So in runway, once you want to design the runway, then what are the factors that you should consider? So first, it is the runway orientation. So orientation, if you are constructing a building, then it will be like this in the ground, the directions. So here it will be north, here south, east, and west. So how your building should orient? It means in which direction your building should be. For example, if your building is like this in plan, okay, in plan your building can be like this. Otherwise, the same plan can be oriented in a different way at the same place, just like this. Okay, so I hope you have got the idea. So orientation means the difference between these two figures. These are having different orientations. So here in the case of runway also it's like this. So it can be oriented at any direction, just like this. The runway can be provided like this or in this direction. Anyway, you can provide it. But the thing is that here you should provide it in such a way that it will be economical for an aircraft to take off and land through that runway. So the economy or the fuel efficiency of the landing and taking off depends mainly on the wind direction. So the most important factor that determines the force required to take off is the wind. So wind velocity and wind direction. So for a year, you have to study the area at which you have to construct the runway. So the area at which you have to construct the runway should be studied for an entire year. Then only you can understand the direction and force of the wind acting at that area. So we are having a method. We have to draw different diagrams. So that we will study during the next module. So once we are ready with such diagrams, then we can decide from that diagram in which direction the orientation is the best. So in this way, you have to decide the orientation. So that's the process of runway orientation. So the next factor related to the runway is the so in the runway orientation, here you can see the runway can be oriented at any direction. That means the north, south, or east, west in this way. In which direction it will be more economical considering the wind velocity. Okay, after that is the runway configuration. So configuration means the runway can be configured in different ways. Mainly it's of four types. Just it can be a single runway like this. You can simply provide. Otherwise, you can provide parallel runways like this. So two runways running parallel. It need not be parallel. You can provide it like this. Okay, in this way, two runways are possible. So here, it's just like an open V structure. So it's similar to the letter V, but it is not closed. So it can be referred to as the open V type of configuration of runways. So in the same way, you can provide it as intersecting runways, just like you can extend it. So in this way, you can extend so that you will get two runways which are intersecting each other. So this is the intersecting configuration of runways. So these are the types of configurations. It can be single runway, parallel runway, open way runway, and intersecting runway. So in this way, you can have different configurations. That's all. So now we are having, so in detail we will study all this, the design of the runway that we will study during the next module. Okay, so anyway, this module means it's the introduction to airport engineering, and in detail we will see airport engineering during the last module. Okay, so and the same thing we will discuss there also, but it will be more wide. So that's all. In runway markings, you have to study. The runway markings are similar to the pavement markings. So in pavement marking, you are having various markings, just like the zebra crossing, then various median and dotted lines, then edge lines. So all these lines are drawn on the pavement directly. So in the same way, on runway also there are various markings. So just like the designators, then center line marking, then runway threshold, then runway aiming point, then touchdown zone, then edge marking. So all these markings will be explained in detail during the next module. Just like this, you can provide various markings. If it's the plan of the runway, then you can provide the center line like this, and the aiming point at which the plane starts taking off. So that can be marked at a particular stretch. So this can be drawn by using various lines. So edge lines can be drawn along the edges, and center line can be drawn along the midpoint. So in this way, you can mark various lines or markings on the runway. So now it's the runway lighting. So now I'm just giving a brief description only, because the same syllabus is provided in the next module also. So in runway lighting, here you have to introduce lighting system on the runway so that it will give indication of the markings during night flying. Okay, so during the time of flying at night, the pilots cannot see anything on the runway. So it should be better providing lighting for the corresponding markings, and not only in the case of running on the runway, but while landing, it should see clearly the factors present on the runway. So for that purpose also, you have to provide lighting. So it consists of various lights, just like identifier lights, in order to identify the objects on the runway. So runway end light. End light means you have to know where the runway ends. Then it consists of edge lights. So edge light means in order to identify the edges. Then center line lighting. Then touchdown zone light. Then touchdown zone, that zone will be discussed. So it's the zone at which it lands. And then taxiway center line. Then lead off lights, lead on lights. Then approach light. So all these lights will be discussed while discussing the movement of aircraft. So these are the lighting system that you should provide commonly. Now it's the safety features. So on runway, you have to provide the safety features just like various fire safety measures, then various measures in order to prevent the accident or collapse of the aircraft, just like the excursion safety, then overrun safety, incursion safety, then undershoot safety, then confusion safety. So all these safety referred to as the collapse of the aircraft. So various types of collapse will be there. So if just for example, if two airplanes are coming towards a common point, just like if it's a crossing runway and one aeroplane is moving like this and another one is moving like this, then there will be a collapse at this point if both these are meeting at the same time at this point. Okay, so you have to maintain proper speed in order to avoid the collision. Okay, so anyway you cannot avoid such situations because the number of runways can be limited, and if more landing occurs, then definitely each runway should be used efficiently. So you cannot wait for the passing of the aeroplane. So here, once it started, it can also be started, but maintain the speed in such a way that it will not collide at this point. So this type of safety features are decided are discussed in the overrun safety features. So in the same way, various types of safety features we can describe. So that you have to study by points. Now these are the common aspects of runway. So we will discuss in detail. Now speaking about aircraft. So just an introduction. You may be knowing aircraft is the vehicle that is moving on the runway. So here, if you look at the figure, you can see. I hope you can see the figure. Here it is the front view of an aircraft. So it consists of dimensions starting from the tip of the wing at the left side to the tip of the wing at the right side. So it is the wing span. And what about the wheel span or wheel tread? It is the distance between or the center to center distance between the outermost wheels of the aeroplane. Okay, so it can be marked like this. So it is important that all the dimensions you have to study by its technical term only. Okay, so you can simply refer it as the distance between the wheels, but the technical term is the wheel tread. So it should be written in that way only. So that is the point here. You have to study all these technical terms. And the wingspan, you can have a view. So all this you can simply observe and write. So what about the tail width? It is the width of the tail, maximum width of the tail. So before this, you have to view the figure of individual parts. Then only you can identify this. Okay, once you study about various parts, it will be better to understand. Okay, I hope you can see this figure. So in this figure you can see there are various lines based on which we can express the dimensions. So it is the center line or the longitudinal line. So that can be shown like this. So this line. So here, based on which you can express the dimensions. And once you speak about the wheel system, then you can see the wheels can be configured in different ways. Just like normally it is having three wheels. So one wheel can be provided at the front and two wheels can be provided at the rear side. So in fact, it will be like this. Just if I draw, here there will be a single wheel and here both in the both sides of the rear end there will be individual wheels like this, and you can also provide it like this. So one wheel is here and here you can provide two wheels, just like the tandem axle wheel that we have discussed during the roadway engineering. Okay, so it can be provided like this also. A single wheel assembly also you can provide. Okay, so here you can do one more thing, just like this you can provide. Here you can provide the axle, and in that axle you can have a part like this, and here you can provide two wheels just like this. Okay, in the same way here also. I hope it's clear for you. Okay, in this way you can have the system, so that you will have total 4 plus 4, 8 wheels at the rear side, and if it is not sufficient you can also provide one more wheel at the front side. So you will have total 10 number of wheels. So I hope you can understand this configuration, isn't it? So configurations മനസ്സിലാവുന്നില്ലേ, നമ്മളത് പ്ലാനിൽ അതിന്റെ വീല് നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഇമേജ് ആണ്. So in this way you can have various configurations, and you can also have configurations just like it. You can provide in the front and in the back, same way, similar to road vehicles. You can provide in this way also, and you can also provide dual wheel assembly like this. So simply you can provide a single dual wheel assembly like this. In this way also you can provide. So here these are known as twin wheels. Okay, twin wheels. Just we have discussed about the dual wheel assembly, it's twin wheel, and the front wheel is known as the main wheel. Okay, so it's the main wheel, and the rear wheels, these are the rear wheels. So in this way you can explain various wheel configurations of aeroplanes. Now going to other parts, here you can see the main body of the plane, which is known as the fuselage. So the fuselage consists of the main body, inside which all the passengers are accommodated. Okay, so that is not marked here. You can see some other figures if you look at. Okay, here you can see it is a fuselage. So Fuselage means it's the main body, and if you look at the wing, then you can see various parts. So this entire structure consists of the wings. So in the wings, the component parts are aileron. Here it's the aileron. Here it is the flap. It's the main wing. Okay. So for the wing, we are having two sides. It is a leading edge and this is a trailing edge. Okay. So leading edge means the edge which is coming in contact with the front side, and the trailing edge is the edge that is available at the rear edge. Okay. So if you draw the cross section of the wing, then you can see like this. So okay, this is here the cross section is shown like this. Okay, in this way. In this way you can see the cross section here, but it's just provided for understanding purpose only. But in practice we are not providing a cross section like this. Okay, so in practice we provide cross sections like this. Okay, what is the speciality of such cross sections? I hope you can understand the meaning. It will be going like this. Okay, it will be going like this. It will be attached to the fuselage. Okay, it will be going like this. Okay, I am cutting a section like this. Okay, I hope you can understand. ഈ കൺസെപ്റ്റ് പിടിയിട്ടില്ലേ? നമ്മൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ക്രോസ് സെക്ഷൻ എടുത്തതെന്ന് പിടിയിട്ടില്ലേ? അതായത് ക്രോസ് സെക്ഷൻ എടുക്കുന്നത് ഏത് ഡയറക്ഷനിലാണെന്ന് നോക്കുക. അങ്ങനെ കൊടുത്താലുള്ള അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജ് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഇഫ് യു ആർ പ്രൊവൈഡിങ് ഇറ്റ് ലൈക്ക് ദിസ്, ദെൻ വാട്ട് വിൽ ഹാപ്പൻ? സോ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ദ leading edge and it's the trailing edge. Okay, so the plane is moving in this direction, that you should observe. Okay, in this direction the plane is moving. So what will happen? Definitely the wind will flow like this. So wind will flow opposite to the direction of the aeroplane. So it will move like this. Wind will move like this. Definitely the wind velocity will be more. So wind will go like this. But what about the condition here? In this region, there will not be any velocity for the wind. Why? Because it is curved, and here the wind will not come like this. Okay, in this way the wind cannot come to this zone. Okay, so this zone is always having a very less velocity or almost zero velocity for the wind. So what will happen? You have studied once the velocity is minimum, then the pressure will be maximum. So the pressure will be more at this point, at this zone. Okay, but what about the condition here? Here the pressure will be very less because the velocity is more here. So that you have studied during the Bernoulli's principle. So we have discussed during the fluid mechanics lab, I remember. Okay, so it is the principle behind a lot of gadgets. Just like if you are making a sprayer, so what is the purpose of this sprayer? നമ്മൾ സ്പ്രേ എന്ന് പറയുന്നല്ലേ. സോ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു കുപ്പിയിൽ കുറച്ച് വെള്ളം വെച്ചിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു സ്ട്രോ വെക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ എന്നിട്ട് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? മറ്റൊരു സ്ട്രോ ഇങ്ങനെ ഇവിടെ ഇങ്ങനെ വെക്കുന്നു അല്ലെ. എന്നിട്ട് ഇതിലൂടെ നമ്മൾ ഊതുവാണ് അല്ലെ. ഇങ്ങനെ ഊതിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാലോ ഇതിലൂടെ ആ വിൻഡ് ഫ്ലോ ചെയ്യും അല്ലെ. അപ്പൊ എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കും? ഈ വെള്ളം ഇതിലൂടെ മുകളിലേക്ക് കയറിയിട്ട് ഇങ്ങോട്ടേക്ക് സ്പ്രേ ചെയ്യും അല്ലെ. നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ ഇങ്ങനെ ഊതിയാൽ മതി, ഇത് മുകളിലേക്ക് തനിയെ കയറിയിട്ട് സ്പ്രേ ചെയ്യും. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇങ്ങനെ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്? സോ വൺസ് നമ്മളിങ്ങനെ ഊതുന്ന സമയത്ത് എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? ഇവിടുത്തെ വെലോസിറ്റി കൂടുന്നു അല്ലെ. അപ്പോൾ ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കലി ഇവിടുത്തെ പ്രഷർ കുറയുന്നു. അപ്പൊ ഇവിടുത്തെ പ്രഷർ കൂടുതലും ഇവിടുത്തെ കുറവും. അപ്പൊ എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കും? പ്രഷർ കൂടിയിടുന്ന് കുറഞ്ഞിടത്തേക്ക് ഫ്ലൂയിഡ് മൂവ് ചെയ്യും അല്ലെ. എന്നിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മുകളിലേക്ക് ഇത് പൊങ്ങി വരുന്നത് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റും. സോ സെയിം പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ ഇസ് അപ്ലൈഡ് ഹിയർ ആൾസോ. നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ വെലോസിറ്റി കൂടി ഇവിടെ കുറവ്. അപ്പൊ എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? പ്രഷർ കൂടുന്നിടത്തുനിന്ന് കുറഞ്ഞിടത്തേക്ക് ഫ്ലൂയിഡ് മൂവ് ചെയ്യും അല്ലെ. അപ്പൊ ഇവിടുത്തെ എയറിന് മുകളിലേക്ക് മൂവ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ടെൻഡൻസി ഉണ്ടാവും. ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കലി ദിസ് wind will get an upward thrust from the air that is present below. this wing. So that is the principle behind the drifting of this aeroplane. So drifting means it's the process by which it flies towards the top direction. Okay, so that we should remember that what is the significance of the shape of cross section of the wing in order to have the aircraft going upward. Okay, so അത് നിങ്ങൾ ഫിഗർ വരച്ചിട്ട് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പഠിക്കുക. സോ ഇവിടെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഒരു ക്യാമ്പേർഡ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ ആണ് കാണാൻ പറ്റിയത് അല്ലെ. സോ ക്യാമ്പറിംഗ് എന്താണെന്ന് നിങ്ങൾ റോഡ് ക്രോസ് സെക്ഷനിൽ പഠിച്ചിരുന്നു. സോ റൈസ്ഡ് അപ്വേർഡ് സെൻട്രൽ പോർഷൻ അല്ലെ. സോ അപ്വേർഡ് റൈസ്ഡ് സെൻട്രൽ പോർഷൻ അത് വിങ്ങിന്റെ ക്രോസ് സെക്ഷനിൽ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റും. സോ ഹിയർ നമ്മൾ ഇതിനെ ക്യാമ്പറിംഗ് എന്നാണ് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. സോ ദ ക്യാമ്പർ, the interesting thing is that you can change the camber. Here there is a facility for changing the camber just like this. Okay, here you can see these ailerons. Why these ailerons are provided? You can have a control on the curvature of the cross section. So here you can see these ailerons can be folded. Here you can see there is a hinge. So this hinge can provide or the hinge can facilitate the rotation of the aileron. The aileron, once the aileron rotates, then what will happen? It can control the curvature like this. Here it is having more curvature, here less curvature. Okay, because at this hinge it can be folded or rotated like this. So this rotation can be made possible from inside the cabin by the pilot. So once he want to have the more curvature, then he can have the control of the ailerons. So that is the function of the aileron. So the same function is provided by the flaps also. So here we are providing the aileron and the flaps in order to have control on the upward and downward movement. And what about the tail part? Here in the tail part you can see mainly we are having three components. So these are the elevators, then fin and rudder. So what is the significance of this elevator, fin and rudder? Here you can see the elevator. So for elevator you can refer to this figure. Okay, here you can clearly see this is the rudder and this is the elevator flaps. Okay, this is an elevator flaps. So this portion and this portion, okay, this portion is the stabilizer. Okay, so first it's the elevator flaps. So these elevator flaps are hinged at this portion. So here you can see here it is hinged. So how it will operate? This rotation is possible by the pilot. Okay, it can be rotated like this so that it can stay like this. In this way you can provide it, or you can also rotate it like this, so that once it is clearly downward, then what will happen? Then it can move upward and downward. Okay, once it's moving upward and downward, it should be vertically downwards. So once it's on the fly or once it is on air, then you have to make it horizontal. Then only it can fly properly. Otherwise, it will provide hindrance to the flow. So at the time of flight, you can make it like this horizontally. So that is a significance. So if you want to change the level, or if you want to make the level different, then what you should do? You can operate this so that you can have an angle in between 50 degree to 60 degree. So usually its angle is 50 degree to 60 degree. Usually we will not provide exact vertical or horizontal direction. Within this angle, you should maintain that orientation. So that's the elevator. It enables the upward and downward movement of the aircraft. So this type of movement is known as pitching. Okay, so pitching means in order to, if there is any difficulty at a various layers of air, then it had to change the layer, or it had to change the level. So that process is known as pitching. That is enabled by means of this elevator. Okay. So and after that it is the rudder. So these rudders are provided in order to maintain the streamline characteristics. So here you can see this rudder can be rotated like this in this direction. So once it's rotated in this direction, then what will happen? Here the velocity will be less in this direction because the airflow got hindrance. Okay, if it is rotated in this direction, then the airflow will get prevented by the arrival of this rudder. But what about here? The air will flow more because there is no hindrance from the rudder. So what will happen? Here the flow will be less, here the flow will be more. So automatically what will happen if you are having a vehicle like this, and if this tire is having more velocity and if this tire is having less velocity, then what will happen? Automatically it will rotate like this, definitely. So that is what happened here also. So if you rotate it in this direction, then what will happen? It will rotate like this. The aircraft will rotate like this. So in order to rotate the aircraft, what you should do? You have to control the flaps. So here the flaps can be controlled, and here the rudder also can be controlled, so that the airflow will be maximum in this direction and minimum in this direction, so that you can control it or rotate it in the rightward direction. So that is the purpose of providing this rudder. So this type of movement is known as yawing, Y-A-W-I-N-G. That means controlling the rudder and facilitating the movement of the aircraft. This is known as yawing. Okay. So yawing movement is enabled by means of this rudder. Then it's the aileron. So ailerons also helps in the functioning of the rudder. So the once the rudder is rotated like this, at that time the aileron should be rotated downward. If it's rotated in this direction, it will be rotated downwards. Then only it can accommodate the rudder. So that's also done by this aileron. So this rudder and this aileron combinedly enables the airplane to rotate. So this motion is known as rolling. So lateral rolling. Lateral rolling means the rotation in the sideways direction. Okay, so the rotation in the sideways direction is enabled by means of this rudder and this aileron. In the same way, the flaps will also help. So actually, it is a combined action of all these structures to facilitate various kinds of maneuvers of the aircraft that you should study. Okay, so these are the various parts. So the parts you can have various axes. So here it's the vertical axis, horizontal axis, or longitudinal axis. Then fuselage you can see. Then wing and various components of the wing you have to explain. Then the tail piece and then the component of the tail, that also you have to study. So in the same way, at the front portion there will be a turbine. So that will rotate, or a fan or a blade that will rotate like this. So it will enable the movement of the aircraft. That means it will enable the movement of free flow, or it will help to maintain the airflow in order to facilitate the aeroplane movement. So various types of engines are there. Engines we will discuss during the next class, I think. So the engines can be some jet engine or propeller engine. Then you can simply use the engine that you are providing for road vehicles, just like the piston type engine that we are using in the vehicles, but it is somewhat lesser efficient. I can take very small load only, just like the piston engine, then turbojet engine, then turbofan, propeller fan, then rocket engines can also be used in high weighted aeroplanes. So the working of the engines also we will discuss during the coming classes, and then we will in detail discuss the various aspects of movement and the maneuvers of the aeroplane in the coming classes. So in the next class, we will in detail see the terminal building, then airplane characteristics, etc. So I hope you can have the attendance now. Okay. Okay, I will call your name. At that time, you can have your name on the chat box. Okay, Abhirami, others, Akash, Akshay, Akshaya. Yes. Now, Akshaya, Anjusha, Arya, Asano, Adira. Yes. Aduna, Danish, Danya, Sahala, Sarna. Okay. Now, Tansila, Goban, Jairam, Joshua, Ashraf. Tansila present. Yes. Okay. Now, Sijin, Rachel, Sandra, Shafna. Yes. Agash present. Sijin is Sijin. Yes. Okay. Now, Shafna, Shamjas. Okay. Sri Lakshmi. Now, Shreya, Pradhagat, Usman. Okay. Usman is there. Okay, Usman is absent. Now Vibilesh, Vipinraj, Vismaya. Okay. Now Anaga, Anubama, Muhammad. Okay. നിങ്ങൾ ലാസ്റ്റ് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്ത ആ പ്രോബ്ലംസ് ഒന്ന് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കട്ടോ. നമ്മുടെ ട്രാഫിക് സിഗ്നൽ ഡിസൈൻ്റെ അത് ചെയ്തിട്ട് വാല്യൂ കിട്ടുന്നില്ലേ നോക്കുക. ഞാൻ ആ ഫുൾ വാല്യൂസ് ലിനിവേഴ്സിൽ ഇട്ടിട്ടില്ല. നിങ്ങളൊന്ന് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കിയിട്ട് കിട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാനതൊന്ന് ലിനിവേഴ്സിൽ ഇടാം. എന്നിട്ട് നിങ്ങളൊന്ന് ഷെയർ ചെയ്ത് നോക്കുക. ഒന്ന് കമ്പൈൻ, അതായത് കോറിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കുക. കിട്ടുന്ന വാല്യൂസ് അങ്ങനെ തന്നെയാണോ വേണ്ടതെന്ന്. അല്ലേ, മസ്റ്റായിട്ടും ചെയ്ത് നോക്കണം. ഫുള്ള് പ്രീവിയസ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് നിങ്ങൾ സോൾവ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് നോക്കുക തന്നെ വേണം. ഓക്കെ അല്ലേ അത്? ഓക്കെ, ബൈ.